Hey, this is That Rugby Union Show. I'm Xola, and we'll be joined by Sim as always as we continue to take a look at some pressing issues in the world of rugby. Today, cannot wait to speak to our special guests. We delve a little deeper to what's happening in the Free State, and we'll be joined by two legends from the Toyota Free State Cheetahs. And love to get your comments in, questions if you're watching. Always enjoy getting those answered. And don't forget, while I'm at it, to give us a like and a share. And make sure you share this with your friends as well. Love to keep the conversation going. Sim, good to see you, bro. It's been a busy week. It's been a little bit better in terms of weather in Joburg, so I shouldn't be as bleak as I feel. But I feel like we're halfway through the year. I guess we are.
Well, we are halfway through the year, but I must admit, I could quite easily shut it down literally around about now. It's only been 6 months, but it's been very, very long. And you talk about this week being okay. Listen, with URC quarterfinals in town, it is never easy for the writers because we're just basically moving up and down, especially it being in Pretoria. Just driving up and down between here and Pretoria almost on a daily basis to go to Jake, who, kind of like, imparts his wisdom, as it were. But yeah, look, my issues aside, I look forward to tonight. We've got some proper legends, from rugby country in this country. If you say cheaters, it's that's proper rugby people. You don't mess with that. And yeah, I actually look forward to talking to our special guests.
Yeah, no, certainly am. And I think I'll probably bump into you at Loftus because I had to make sure I reach one of the quarters at least. So, yeah, hopefully we'll catch up even before the match, which is usually dangerous for during and after. But it's going to be.
Not good for journalists.
No.
Listen, people
no.
already think I write drunk. The last thing I need is proof that I actually do. So yeah, no, it's all good. Thanks.
Yeah, there's going to be evidence now. But yes, you mentioned our two guests, and they are special, especially to the central region of South Africa, the Toyota Free State Cheetahs. Yeah, it's been a hard, long road for the Cheetahs in the last decade or so, but it's always good to see things on the up, and I mark things on the up with legends getting involved, coming back, making sure they give back, and trying to grow what the Cheetahs are all about. So absolutely a pleasure to have on both the CEO of the Cheetahs, the Free State Cheetahs, Rory Duncan, and Springbok legend and current director of rugby, Frans Steyn. So great to see you, gents. Rory, I'm going to start with you because I hadn't seen you in a very long. We haven't spoken in so many years. You've been really, really busy, and only recently back at the Cheetahs. How long has it been?
Xola, it's been about good to see you again. It's been about 7 years since I last saw you, and yeah, been back in SA now just over 3.5 months.
It's lekker. And you immerse yourself right in the heart. And Fransie, ek seker, sê Afrikaans is weer pyk. After just 3 months, it doesn't take long. It doesn't take long in BLOEM.
No. The first meeting Roy and myself had, after 2 sentences, he went, "You can speak Afrikaans." So yeah, I switched over quite quickly.
Ag nee, dis ook baie lekker om jou te sien. It's been a while since I've seen you as well, and quite a lot has happened in the time in between. Your journey has taken you from the field to the big office to the slightly smaller office, and probably the same level of stress as well. How have you enjoyed it? I mean, I think you've learned a hang of a lot in a very short space of time about what happens away from the field.
Yeah, I don't enjoy it at all. It's not fun. It's not the same. But like you said, I think nowhere in life I would have learned so much in a short period of time. So I'm very grateful for the opportunity, and I learn every day. And Rory being back, he's a guy that went through everything as well, so he's a good mentor.
Yeah, I was about to say, I mean, Rory, we are going to talk about a little bit of your journey, but before the coaching stint and administrative duties, my overarching memory of you was, I think, 2007 Currie Cup final. Was it?
That's
It was
right.
in BLOEM, yeah. And the Cheetahs walked away with that one. You were captaining the team. I'm sure that was a highlight for you, just career-wise.
Yeah, listen, that was a special. I mean, I arrived in 2005. 2005, unfortunately, I didn't play much because I did my ACL. In fact, I did my ACL in my second training session at the Cheetahs. Fortunately, Russie was patient with me and he hung on. Yeah, I played 2006, 2007, but 2007 was special. Just the whole atmosphere of the stadium. And you know, France and them were actually there after winning the World Cup. So
Yes.
all the Boks were there, and they had the World Cup trophy, and yeah, it just made the whole event really special. Definitely one of the highlights of my career.
Yeah, 2007, I was there on duty, so I'm going to hand over to you. But just very quickly, I was with Supersport at the time, and we had to follow Francie and the boys with the trophy tour. And, you know, the stadium, I think, was still half built for the 2010 World Cup. But what an absolute atmosphere. I will never forget that day. It was incredibly hot in BLOEM, but so was the crowd as well. And with the boys parading a World Cup trophy as well, you know, it just came together. But also, Sim, 2007, that's the first year I felt old, because that year, Frans Steyn on camera after a match, me congratulating him for man of the match, starts the sentence with, "Ja, dankie oom." And I thought, yes, I've arrived. But I'll hand it over to you.
I actually told him that off camera about the first time I met him, obviously in 2006, before the Bok end of year tour. And it was something similar. He was with Johan Ackerman because that was Ackerman's last tour as a Springbok. So he was the oldest Bok to tour. Whereas France, obviously at 19, I think it was the youngest in that particular team, and the youngest Bok to be kept. So it was quite interesting to sort of like, I can't even remember. I would have been probably about 29, 30 at the time. And to get this guy who's massively bigger than me calling me worm. It was just like, it was just, he's just like, I'm not sure what I'm doing here, but yeah, this guy reckons I'm an worm. But yeah, guys, just to ask you, I'll start with Rory. Rory, I mean, you've gone through every single step of of a rugby player career, which is obviously playing captaincy, coaching, and now you've basically moved on to, he's now moved on to, to being a CEO. The one thing I'm interested about is, haven't you taken enough punishment from this game to want to take punishment, at the very top of the whole thing, at the very top of the tree?
Sorry, guys, we lost you for a moment or two there, but we're back.
Oh, is it?
And I missed your question.
I'll paraphrase quickly. So you've been a player, captain, obviously a coach, and now you've decided. Have you not taken enough punishment from the game that you now want to do it as a CEO at the very highest level? I mean, I think what I'm asking is, why CEO after obviously everything you've done in the game already?
Yeah, look, it's definitely, playing is definitely easier. I mean, France will tell you, but I think when you're a player, you think it's tough, but you don't actually realize what the coach is going through. And then obviously there's a huge amount of pressure, with on the coaching side of things, because you're in the spotlight, and everything you do is being scrutinized. But yeah, this is a new experience to me. I was, when I was director of rugby here, there's kind of two routes that a director of rugby can go. You can either go, you could be a director of rugby where you're more on field, which France is, and then there's the other director of rugby who tends to do more of an administrative. And in my last stint, I started to spend more and more time in the boardroom. And what happened was, I just felt that it got to a point where I still wanted to coach more. So that was part of the decision to actually leave and go abroad. Coach for another 7 years, and now I've come back, and I'm ready for the boardroom. I must be honest, it's challenging, but it is quite an exciting challenge.
Yeah, no,
and France. Sorry, X. I was going to ask X. And one of the things nobody ever associated Frans with when he was a player was probably coaching, because he was such a field player, if you want to call it that. And my question is, at which stage did you sit and think, hang on, wait, actually, I could give this a go? It's a weird thing, because you've got all the knowledge, having won 2 World Cups and having played as long as you have, having played in as many places as you've played in. So you know, the knowledge is all there, but like, it's weird how we still didn't quite think you were going to be a coach. So at which stage did you sort of turn around and think, hang on, wait, I could actually do this, this job?
I still don't know if I can do this job. It's still, I'm trying to figure it out. But I don't know. I think through my whole career, the ups and downs, stuff happened, and luckily for me, and I think God helped me on a path. And at the moment, that path is where I'm at the moment. And yeah, I can't really explain why I did this. I'm still trying to figure it out some nights, especially when you almost lose against Eastern Province. And it's hard, and you struggle to get your game plan going and all of that. So, but I must say, the last couple of weeks in the SA Cup, I started to enjoy it. When you start to see small things that you're trying to do, when it starts to work. So I'm happy I went down this route. I was ready to go to the farm. I had the farm bakkie ready, and I was operating between, and then this thing came along, and I'm very happy I took this path. I got to meet Rory.
Yeah, no. No, but there's something.
I just want to say, I've obviously been, I've only been back 3.5 months, and I've been working with Frans, and but he's a great coach. He's a great coach, and he's doing a great job with our guys. I think he's created a lot of excitement amongst the players now. I think there's new energy at the Cheetahs, and we're excited about the Currie Cup campaign that's coming up.
Yeah, there's something to be said about the Cheetahs and the way it seems to draw back former players. You know, the number of former players who've come back in some form of either coaching capacity or anywhere off the field. Whether you're talking about a Alcott Miller or a Frans Steyn, there's something about BLOEM that I think wants to make sure that you guys don't see this union fall. As it felt like a bit of an act of, sort of Herculean effort trying to just make sure that the Cheetahs remain, noticed, seen, valued as a big brand, and rightfully so in South Africa, especially when things have been changing. The nature of competitions has been changing, and no more Super Rugby and so many franchises. It's quite a battle, I'd imagine.
You're looking as a brand. I think anybody who's been involved with the Toyota Cheetahs is you fall in love with the brand. It's one of those things where if you've played here and you've been part of it, you know how special it is. And there's a lifestyle that we get living in the city. We're 5 minutes from each other. We were talking about it earlier. Frans lives a couple of 100 meters up the road from you. You're literally 5 minutes from each other. You live in each other's pockets, and there's something special about, like I said, about the team, and there's something special about the city as well.
Yeah, before we get to the actual, future of the Cheetahs and what that might look like in France, we've got a Currie Cup campaign coming up. We also, Julian mentions this in our chat, and I think it's worth mentioning that we've got 2 guys who've successfully transitioned from playing to post-playing, and that's very difficult for a lot of folks. They struggle to find their feet, struggle to find what it is they want to do, and maybe that's where it begins. And I suppose what I'm trying to say, Frans, is that's the value of being associated or affiliated with a union like the Cheetahs, because you can get involved. You can sort of find a spot and fill in where the union needs you to fill in. Whereas I think with a lot of guys coming from the bigger unions, it's much more for corporate machine, and a lot more difficult to just say, okay, I'm ready to step in and help out.
Yeah, but I think myself and Rory had this conversation as well the last couple of months where, well, I think we are agricultural region, and I think the people that's involved with, let's say, Deerkolb, they came on board now, and OVK and all of these places, there's job opportunities for players in those specific companies. So I think what Rory did great was, I think he signed all the sponsors that really helps out in the Free State, helps schools in the smaller towns like Bethlehem, like Bultfontein. So for me, transitioning, the opportunity came along, but I think going into the future, I think there's going to be partnerships with the Cheetahs, with massive companies there will be job opportunities for some players. And then, I mean, even like Scott Ferreira, I mean, he's also a legend of rugby. I mean, Ruan, that's also involved. Opa, we don't know what Opa is going to do yet, but I mean, why don't we get them involved at some stage, or to do something small, or even to still come to the games? It's a massive selling point for us if we can keep those guys in the system and still in love with the Free State Cheetahs.
Yeah, I saw some social media posts of you at Nampu with Piney, and I think it matters that you guys are there, that you're seen, that you're involved. And Nampu is groot, jong. I'm always surprised. I'm always surprised by what's on display. It's incredible. Sim, I'm going to hand over to you, I promise, but I also just want to leave one question to either of you, and it's why. Why, Francie, did you head to France? When you did, was there something that attracted you about playing there in that league particularly? And likewise to you, Rory, I know that you did coach obviously in England, but then ultimately ended up in Japan, and that must have been a massive culture shock with the Docomo Dragons along with with Johan. Why did you guys make these decisions?
Yeah, I don't know. Do you want the truth, or can I say that I can't?
I want the truth.
Tell the truth.
You might as well tell it. You might as well tell us now, because there was some drama, wasn't there?
He went for the love of the game.
I wasn't the first choice. I was struggling. There was small groups within the Springbok setup, like the Bulls and the Sharks and whatever. And then I wasn't the guy playing, and I wanted to do something new. I think at that stage, most of, like Bucci left at the Sharks, John Smith left. There was big names that stopped at the Sharks, and the environment changed a bit. So I don't know. I just felt I needed to get out of South Africa and find my own feet. I think I thought I was going to get a lot of money, and then the World Cup came along, the Soccer World Cup, and the Rand Euro went to 6 Rand for a euro, and then I ended up making no money. And, but I don't think myself and Peter de Villiers at the beginning, we weren't on the same page. I don't think he enjoyed me that much at the beginning. 2011 was different. I think he came to Paris one year, and it was the conversation was a little bit different.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and it was a tough time as well. And you were quite a young man, and I recall there was a lot of media attention as well. And I just thought sometimes you have to make the decision and stick to it. And if you need to hold your head and say what you need to say, or not say what you don't need to say, I do value you for that. Rory, your decisions. Why did you end up where you ended up? Were you also chasing exchange rate?
Well, no, it actually. It definitely wasn't a money move for me when I went to the Premiership with. So I moved to Worcester Warriors to be head coach there. But I think what happened was I was at the Cheetahs. I did I was in a director of rugby role, but it became more and more administrative. And then we actually did we did that move to the Pro 14 at that stage. And then I coached in because Franco ended up going back to the box, so I ended up taking over the coaching again. And then I got a call the one day from Worcester Warriors, and the guy said, "Listen, would you be keen to come and coach here?" And I always wanted to go and coach in the Premiership, and that I knew at some point I would come back into an administrative role. So I just saw it as an opportunity to be able to get, it was an itch that I had to scratch. So I went to the Premiership. I coached there for 2 seasons. And then in 2020, Akers was going to Red Hurricanes in Osaka, in Japan. So we hooked up, and I went along as his defense coach. And I spent 4 years with him, or just over 4 years. It was a great time. I think he's a great coach. He's a great man, and we had some very good times in Japan, because my family actually stayed in the UK, so I used to travel back and forth between the UK and Japan, and he was on his own most of the time as well. So we lived in the same apartment block. I spent a lot of time together. It was a great experience. But I'd actually been in Japan a couple of, I played in Japan back in 2008, 2009, and came back in 2010. And what was strange was, back in those days, there were only, I think, like 5 South Africans playing in the top league in Japan. Okay. Now, I mean, just the team that we finished up with in Japan, we had 7 just in our team. So it's obviously changed, become a very attractive market to go and play in.
Yeah, what a place. Jaco Pretorius, I think, was one of them at the time, wasn't he? He was one of the early, wasn't he?
Jaco van der Westhuizen.
Jaco van der Westhuizen, sorry. Not the center, the fly-off, yeah.
So Jaco van der Westhuizen was one of the guys. Tinus Delport was another one. Yes, yeah. I'm struggling to think now who the other guys, but there were, like I said, there were only about 5 guys in that first division now. So,
Frans, but the question is always asked. Obviously, I mean, you were in 2019. You were only the second Springbok to win 2 World Cups. And yes, if you look at the how many guys have won 2 World Cups now as Springboks, it's a complete mess. Like there's probably about 10 to 15 guys who've done it, which is insane. 2 questions from my end. One, can you take the average South African rugby fan into what has made Rusty's current Springboks so good? And then the second part is, obviously, having started as early as you did at 19, have you, I mean, does the fact that you never got, say, 100 caps still weigh on your mind, or is it something you don't even bother with?
Which one should I answer first? Let's go to the 100 caps.
The
100 caps, no. I was never a guy for 100 caps or 200 conversions or something like that. So that doesn't bother me. And then what was the other question you said?
What made Rusty's box so special? Because obviously you were part of that as well, and you were part of another sort of World Cup winning setup, obviously under Jake.
So I think you must remember he's got the best players in South Africa, or nowadays most overseas as well. So he's got the best players. So mentally wise, the honesty that he can be honest with the players, and it's open. How can I say? It's an open meeting room where he hosts his meetings. So that's the one thing. So you get honesty from him, and then he makes you feel good. He thinks about the players, what's good for the players. And I think he's got a great bunch of guys in his squad at the moment. The best thing for me about Rassie is the way he brings in new players, and he's not scared to take chances with those players and give them confidence. So I think even myself now in the SA Cup, I know it's a very small competition compared to where Russie is, but it's not always easy to put in new players week in and week out if you have to win, if you have to qualify for the Currie Cup. So him doing that on a national stage, he's got balls. You need to know that he's got balls.
Yeah.
And Rory, just to shift the conversation on to you, it's impressive how you guys have chosen to try and keep the Cheetahs IP within BLOEM, and to make sure that, obviously, the guys that were bred there, guys who understand the culture of Bloemfontein and the Cheetahs, are contributing towards, obviously, future Cheetahs players and future Cheetahs success. But the question is, it's quite a difficult time for, to be a Cheetah, simply because there's a bit of a displacement in terms of there not being something much bigger to aspire for just now. So I think what I'm asking is, what are the challenges that you found, sort of having taken over as CEO, that are facing the Cheetahs that maybe were not facing the Cheetahs a few years back?
Yeah, prior to leaving, we were obviously participating in, it was Super Rugby, and then we went into the Pro 14 competition. So you had those international competitions. So really, it was you were competing with some of the other unions, but it was more like a money battle and that. I suppose the biggest challenge we've probably got at the moment is how do we get ourselves back into an international competition, and that is a focus for us. We fought really hard to get into the 14 competition, and we managed to knock down that door. So what we need to do is figure out where the next opportunity lies, whether it's in the URC competition or whether it's elsewhere. The city's got a lot of talent. The region's got a lot of talent. And if we can just retain the majority of that talent, I think we're going to have an awesome team.
Yeah, I shudder to think what the Cheetahs would look like if, Joseph Dweba, Oxenchair, if, these guys were still there. I know, Rory, you were quite involved with the youngsters at the Cheetahs and bringing the academy through as well. And I think, Frans, that becomes your challenge, is that your team, I suppose, has to constantly change. We were speaking about the Lions not too long ago, and just retaining the top players is the most impossible thing in the world. How do you prepare for that as a coach? You 6 guys are leaving at the end of the current season. I mean, obviously some have to retire, move on, but there's a lot of churn at a team like the Cheetahs. It must be quite discombobulating as a coach, knowing that next season you've got to start again and build a team.
Yeah, I think for me, it's at the moment we in no man's land a bit. So if we get 20 players through the Cheetahs and they end up playing URC or French Top 14 or Premiership Rugby, I think we've done well. I think at the moment that's where I'm focusing on, how can we help players to get better, to get a better contract at another union that can play better rugby. Till we find a competition, I think that's where we're going to focus. How many guys can we bring through our doors that end up at our stage? The only thing for me is if we can keep the young guys in BLOEM. People can go every year, but then we need to keep the best rugby players in the Free State at the Cheetahs. And that's something that we struggle to do at the moment. But hopefully over time, when they go to the other unions, you see they don't come through. The Bulls, the Sharks, and the Lions, or whoever sits at the moment with the best junior rugby players in the country, but they don't play. So hopefully the young guys will see that and see that as an opportunity at the Cheetahs, that they can play early Currie Cup or early EPCR. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that day when it becomes like that, to get those brilliant young guys to come and play, learn from Ruan Pienaar, Piney. I think it will be awesome.
Yeah. You and Jimmy Stonehouse have a very similar problem because when I spoke to him, I think his biggest concern is that there's so many months over the course of the year where the players are sitting, they're not playing in any competition. Obviously young guys want competition. They do keep fit, but ultimately you want to be playing as much rugby as possible, especially if you're young. And that must also be a different kind of challenge, just making sure that they gun ready when the comps do come around.
No, definitely. Like you say as well, like I think there's 4 under-19 games, like Sharks, Bulls, Cheetahs playing. I think there's 4 in this year. That's not enough for a 19-year-old. So especially if you're one of the best in the country, you need to play more than that in a season.
Yeah, no, it's quite a challenge. Sim?
Guys, I mean, this lack of place to play or lack of bigger competition to play in. I understand trying to improve players and making sure that they're at least getting good enough to sort of move on to greener pastures. But are you not worried as a region or as a union that if you keep on not having something bigger to aim for, you might fall behind and kind of like, fall into the clutches of let me put it this way, unions that were just unions before, whereas you guys obviously were a franchise when you were playing in Pro 14. Is there that worry?
So we're fortunate enough that we do compete in the EPCR competition. The guys have been great to accommodate, even though we play our games, we games out of Europe, but we are fortunate to play in that competition. But as you mentioned, it's not enough. So our focus is to try and find an international competition. We've done it before, but we just need to figure out which competition is wants us on board with them, and what can we make work. It's a process. It's a process of having conversations with all the different competitions. You've also got to add value to those competitions. So, how can we? I think the question from a lot of the guys is, okay, how do we add value to the competition? So that's it's part of this process. It is one of our focus points, and hopefully we get it right in the not too distant future.
Yeah,
just from a Cheetahs fan, sorry. And just from a Cheetahs fans perspective, I seem to remember last year that you guys were trying to get an equity deal together, or an equity partner with Y11. I just wanted to know, because I never quite saw, sort of any reporting on the deal being completed or whatever. Did you guys ever get over the line with regards to to signing that equity partner?
So the conversations with regards to equity partners and things like that, those are still in process at the moment. Hopefully we'll be, hopefully we'll have something. Again, I'm going to talk about the not too distant future to be able to announce.
Yeah, I mean, I saw you guys extended your contract with Toyota, and not necessarily, wanting to knock sponsors in general, but it's really good the way they've stuck with you. They've helped organize even more rugby as well, using those connections to Japan or whatever the case may be, which is great. It must be quite heartening to know that it's not all about the biggest teams, the biggest levels of income, or whatever the case is, that you've got partners that have stood by you. I think it matters for other sponsors to see this.
Yeah, Toyota have been awesome. They're really awesome partners to us, and they've been with us for about 15 years now. And Toyota actually help us host a competition of our own, which is the Toyota Challenge. So this year, back end of October, early November, we'll be hosting the Toyota Challenge. we haven't finalized got the final list of teams yet, but we've got some really exciting teams on the card. So I think having a partner like that enables us to to be able to do a bit more. And Toyota have on your point earlier about the talent that we have in the province and the young talent we have, Toyota have a Toyota Academy, which we're really excited about. They've just made an investment into that academy, where we're redoing our academy facilities and have something great to offer the young boys that are coming through our system.
Oh, that sounds great. I mean, they'd be absolute angels if they were able to rebuild the Mystic Boer, because I don't know if I can visit BLOEM until that's back. But Fransie, kom ons kyk voor. Currie Beeker, you've got a bunch of guys who obviously you want to have played a lot more rugby this season. I know you wanted to finish top of the pile in the SA Cup, and I really thought you came close in that semi-final, and I know it would have been devastating for them. What's your ambition when you look at Currie Cup? How do you get the guys to believe?
Yeah, I think that already started. I think the last 2 games against Griquas, I think they know we can beat any team on any day if we do our things right. And I think going into the Currie Cup, I spoke to Rory this morning as well. The next 3 months is going to be about rugby. If your wife is angry at you, she can keep it till after the Currie Cup, and then she can have a fight with you. But this next 3 months, we need to work. And we need to play some rugby, some good, proper, old Free State, running, scoring tries, winning rugby.
Yeah, that's what I absolutely love. And Sim, you'll definitely agree. And I almost hate the tag Cheetahs is everybody's second team, but it is as a result of the type of rugby we've seen through the years. You've kept at it, consistently at it. And maybe the question is, how important is that combination of you and Piney, who understands what that's all about, being for these youngsters to see? And him also playing until just very recently as well. I think you guys just went on a lot longer than probably you even thought you would.
Yeah, I think myself and Pine, we're a little bit lucky because we get to make our mistakes and we get to say sorry sincerely from if we do something wrong, because we get that from the players, because I don't know why, but we get that. Not that we want to make mistakes, but I can go into the team room and say, guys, listen, it's my fault, I screwed up, I'm sorry, we'll do better next week. The other thing is as well that I think will be good for us is Tian coming in the Currie Cup, Tian Liebenberg. So between him and myself and Pine, there's 3 different types of people. You know, Tian Liebenberg, he's quite energetic. Pine is quiet in the corner, keeps to himself, and then I'm here in the middle. So I can't wait for the Currie Cup, and hopefully it will work out. Hopefully we can get more onto the right path than the wrong one.
Yeah, no, he's an absolute legend, and I know he's always got a lot to say. And also talking about another legend, Schalk Ferreira has still been playing, and he's 41 years old. And I know what is he, partially retired? What's his status, Rory? He's still there? He's not? He's going to play until he's 50 or so. Come on.
I'll let Frans answer that one. I still think he should play. I still think he should play, but I'll let Frans take that question.
He's coming in tomorrow for a conversation, so I'll take him to Rory, and then Rory can tell him he still needs to play. No, we'll figure it out as we go.
He's on call.
Okay. So, he's on your speed dial, Frans.
He's not allowed to leave Bloemfontein. Yeah.
Okay, no, but not without permission.
He is a good guy. I mean, if you want to teach young guys about respect and what it takes to be a professional rugby player, he would be an awesome role model or a good coach in advising them and whatever. So, but he's coming in tomorrow for a conversation, and then we'll see from there.
This is great. This means we have to talk next week.
I was talking to Brock Harris a couple of months ago. This is after he turned 40 and obviously announced that he was gonna quit playing. And one of the stories he told me was that when he got to the Stormers, one of the first guys he scrummed against was Cal Pereira. So those two guys have continued to 41 and 40. And I'm pretty sure that Skulk is going to be happy to obviously have beaten, Brocky to the punch, because Brocky's now done. And Skulk's still out there sort of having conversations, as Francis says.
Yeah. I mean, Ruan Pinar would be in this conversation if he just opted for another year as well, which is absolutely phenomenal. Doesn't he get tempted, Francie, to take to the field when you see the young scrum halves and fly halves not quite doing what they're supposed to be doing?
No, he's always in the week. He's running when I need to do my defense. He's running the attacking side of the other team. He's on fly half and stuff. So he was quite next to everything that happened. Like if there's a move, he's a guy running out behind. Till PRA's got hold of him one day. Now he's running on the wing and organising. But he's fine. I think Pine is still fitter than most props playing at the moment. He keeps on training, he keeps on running. So he's not an inspiration to me because I'm old and my knees are screwed and whatever. But I think the way he is now, he was playing. So.
Yeah, I love the irony of young players calling you now. That's absolutely fantastic to me. But I'm going to let you guys. Yeah, no, flip it. That's what. This is what I'm not going to take this off. I'm going to let you gents go. I really am appreciative. But Sim, before I do you have any more for the two guys? I think I could keep you here for another hour because there is so much to actually talk about with the Cheetahs, and I hope you'll indulge me when a little further down the path, perhaps in the Currie Cup, if we have another conversation just to check in and see how things are going.
I'm going to ask Rory the question he probably doesn't want to answer, which is, if you had to nominate where you guys should play and the circumstances under which you should play, where would it be?
Sure.
Yeah, it's tough, I know.
Look, I think. Do you know what you? If you're playing in the URC competition, you're playing the derbies, okay? And we know that the derbies get a lot of support. We know that's what the guys want to see us playing against. The full strength Cheetahs against full strength Sharks, Lions, Bulls, Stormers. So if you're playing in the URC competition, you get to play against all those teams. But in saying that, and I'm not trying to give a diplomatic answer here, and that, it'll be awesome to play Southern Hemisphere as well. So for us, really, it's about trying to play a competition that's going to give us more games. We get competitive games, and just being back in like I say, back in international competition again. Again, we are very grateful to be in the EPCR. I think it's an awesome competition for us to be able to compete in. But it would be nice to get more game time in a competition like URC, Super Rugby, or one of those competitions.
Yeah, and I didn't even manage to ask, because in the EPCR, Francie, you guys have to be based in you had to be in the Netherlands the last time around. Because you have to be in essence a European team, so just like hurdle after hurdle, wall after wall.
Yeah, well, at least it's an opportunity. So we'll take any opportunity, and at least everybody's second team is playing on the TV, and they get to see us a bit, and it's always nice playing against good opposition, different circumstances. All of us wants to keep learning. The weather is bad. It's 3G pitches. Here in the Free State, we've got the Kikuyu grass. Now we go over in December, and we need to go play on plastic. So I'm not going to complain. It keeps us relevant, and people and the players get an opportunity to show what they have.
Yeah, no, it's not all bad. I mean, I was in the Free State. I wasn't in Bloem this past weekend. I was in Valk and Dijgras is Druer, us in Bloem. So you guys are quite sophisticated up in Bloem. And I hope, gents, thank you so much for your time. That I get to see you in Bloem, not too far from now, Franzi. Whether it's in Bloem or Clarence, my friend, it's always a pleasure bumping into you.
Thanks, Xola. Thanks so much, my man.
Yeah, cheers, brother. Rory, thank you so much. I appreciate your time, man.
Well, it's very good to see you again, and thank you very much. Thanks, Tim.
Yes, guys.
Cheers. And let me embarrass you one like Sim deleting his MBA. Like in the midst of all of this, he's come back home. He's got to live next door to France almost, and he has to study in the evenings as well. It's unbelievable. But I wish you all the best. Good luck, and I think it will certainly help the Cheetahs as well ultimately. So that it's fantastic.
Thanks, Xola. Appreciate it, my man.
Cheers. Right, Simi, we're obviously going to continue on. I can't even remember if I said I'd keep them on for half an hour, but they were generous with their time because, although they're not playing a lot of rugby, it is busy time trying to organize everything, at a union. And you've got the two head honchos, as Francis says, have got to deal with the stress. And I wonder if our next conversation shouldn't be someone from the URC. I'm thinking... Shark Rose or someone like this, and sort of try and figure out what it is they're thinking. Have they started thinking? And I'm using this as a segue because there's all of this talk about a Club Rugby World Cup, which is like the FIFA Football Club World Cup, I suppose it's meant to be. Yeah. And I asked the question, is it a good idea or a good idea? I'm not sure yet, because once you limit it to a number of teams, it will tend to exclusivity. So, I don't see like a union like the Cheetahs get into that, for instance. There's always going to be the biggest of the teams around.
Yeah, look, I think the most obvious thing to look at is to say if it's a Club World Cup competition, then the implication is that it's the best the Northern Hemisphere has to offer versus the best the Southern Hemisphere has to offer. And then the question becomes, how do you determine, who the best is in the North or the Southern Hemisphere? And once you've done that, and you've done it fairly to the point where you do get the best 8 teams each sort of hemisphere, then you've done your job, and it's a competition that people will want to watch, simply because we've had North versus Southern Hemisphere debates since forever, and they still haven't been settled, because a big part of why they can't be settled is because those two hemispheres don't play their rugby at the same time. And until, so the questions then become, I think the main question becomes, are there implications of the World Club Cup that we are now headed towards a global season? If the answer is yes, then it's a great idea, because then you can have everyone playing at the same time, and you're going to have everyone of equal strength, and you're not going to find yourself at a place where France is sending a weakened squad to New Zealand ever. So that's great. That's the one part. And then the second part for me is seeing that this is this competition has been proposed by the EPCR. My question would be, isn't it better? Wouldn't it be better maybe if they first fix the Champions Cup? Because the Champions Cup at the moment is a bit of I don't want to say mess, because it's unfair to everyone that organizes it, but it is a competition which can be quite uneven, simply because if you just look at the funding of some of the teams, particularly the French sides, it's just so there's such a gulf in money that it is becoming sort of like an arms race financially, instead of who's got the best players who can do what. And so I think until we can iron out those issues, I would have liked to see us iron out those issues first, and then we can sort of run on with a World Club Cup. So long story short, yes, it is a good idea, simply because we've been debating about this for literally for decades, since rugby went professional, probably in 95, 96. And so my thing would be, yeah, by all means do it. But then obviously everyone needs to sort of tighten up their house, their respective houses, before we can sort of try and make sure that, you know, those best eight games from the north, and best eight teams from the north, and 8 teams from the south, you know, finally do get to meet. That's my thinking on it.
Yeah, my dog just licked me as you were saying that, because we've been talking about a global season since before I had a pup. It's always been on the cards. It's always been spoken about. And yeah, I think we need to find a way to actually get it done. And the other thing is, there would have to be a fundamental change to the funding model of just rugby on a global scale, or at least through the EPCR and distribution of those funds, like you say. And I think it would be better if you made the game more equitable financially and you spread that around the globe. But I've got a deep suspicion that there'll be many who feel otherwise, who feel that, you know, they've spent a lot, they've built these multi-million euro priced teams. There's always been fights in the Northern Hemisphere about salary caps. We only really just getting started on that conversation and argument as well. But yeah, I agree with you. There's an opportunity there, but I wonder if the political will is going to last.
Yeah, look, money is always an issue because it kind of muddies up things. One of the things anyone who's ever invested in rugby has found out, and that's consistently so, is that you don't make money out of rugby. So if you are going to invest in a rugby team or club, provincial side, franchise, whatever you want to call it, one thing you have to be prepared for is to basically not make money. And until people are happy with that idea, it seems like the French guys are the happiest with that idea. Then it's not, you know, it's not going to make sense. And also, I mean, we sit and we talk about salary caps. I think the South African salary cap is probably killing the, you know, the South African teams, or the more well-funded of the South African teams, which is obviously the Bulls and the Sharks, and to a lesser extent the Stormers, because they're all sort of run by billionaires. It sounds like a great idea to say lift the salary cap and make it, you know, just make it open. But the problem, it then becomes an arms race within your own domestic rugby. As in, you know, you heard Frans earlier say, you know, the Bulls have all these outrageously talented youngsters, but they're not playing because, well, there's so many people in front of them. I think the Bulls squad, senior squad, is about 55 players. And if you're looking at that, you know, people are not going to get chances to play. And if you then lift the Bulls' salary cap, what you're opening the door for is for even more players to be stockpiled by the Bulls. And you then get a situation where you're sitting there and you're thinking, well, no one else around the country can actually play, you know, rugby because, well, all the players are with the Stormers, the Sharks, and the Bulls, and, you know, and not doing anything there. That can't be good for, you know, that can't be good for domestic rugby either. So it's quite a tricky balance, because once you come up with solutions, you then, it's exactly what you said a bit earlier, you then need the political will, and you need everyone to have the right intention in mind, not to just exploit it. The thing about rugby for years is, once you come up with a rule, whatever that rule is, or law, the very first thing everybody does the next day, ask Rassie, he'll tell you, is they go, you know what? How do we exploit this? And it can't be that much more. It's not that much more different at an administrative level or a commercial level. There's always someone sitting and going, how do we exploit this for us, you know, to make us better than everybody else? And that's kind of where, you know, the issues are always going to be.
Rugby psychology, because it's exactly what coaches do, is find a way around the laws. But you mentioned those franchises. Yeah. You mentioned those franchises. Let's have a quick look. And effectively, and they won some World Cups as well, you know. But let's look at those franchises and this coming weekend, URC quarterfinals. Jeepers, we've been on for almost an hour. I can't believe it. big quarterfinals. We're both going to hopefully run into each other at the one at Loftus, up against an Edinburgh team that they've played twice, lost 1-1-1. Sean Everett has got a pretty decent side at his disposal. Couple of South Africans in there as well. To me, looks like one that the Bulls shouldn't struggle, but could. Stormers against Glasgow, another really good team, another South African coach as well in Franco Smith. And we've seen what the Warriors can do when they're at their best. Massive challenges. And then the Sharks Munster is also huge. I mean, the only team that the South African franchises are missing out on is Leinster, really, that anybody would automatically be scared of. So these are going to be tough games.
Yeah, it's going to be quite tough. I mean, starting with the Stormers, who obviously cannot play Damian Willemse because he's serving that he's going to start serving that ban, that 3-match ban of his. So that's the first sort of difficult thing. And I must admit, of all the possible, if you look at the games and you think of an upset, I suspect actually that Stormers game is the likeliest one. I know it sounds insane because I don't think before the Bulls' win recently against Glasgow, which is last month, I don't think a South African team had won at Scotstoun. But it has happened now. That's the first thing. And the second part of that is, although the Glasgow Warriors did win, URC last season, they haven't quite been the same team in terms of, if you look at their results, they took that 52-0, against Leinster in the Champions Cup, lost to the Bulls at home, a South African team. So there are signs that a couple of cracks are starting to appear. And then if you look at this weekend's team that they've put out, they're missing Xander Ferguson, the tight head prop, who's a Lion as well. They're missing his brother. I forget what his brother's name is, the flanker. And then, but they do. They're also missing Hugh Jones, who's got an Achilles issue. And so you put those guys together, you sit and you think, hang on, there's a chance here. But then again, you get a few guys to come and balance that equation. Henko Venter is back. And I think in terms of physically and sort of setting the tone physically, I think he is the number one player in that Glasgow side. Almost like Franco Smith's right hand right hand on the on the pitch. So he's back from his long ban for eye gouging. Tuipulotu's back at 12.
Yes.
Which is the only Tuipulotu is back, which is going to make things a bit tricky. And then Josh McKay is back at fullback. So you put that together, you probably do have a Glasgow team that's kind of like coming back towards its old self. Of course, you don't know how rusty those players are. But by the same token, the Stormers, the little bit I've seen of the Stormers, I think they're starting to play like themselves all over again. They're that team that tries to punish you on the counter attack or the transition. And you look at Glasgow and you think that's probably how the game is going to pan out. Stormers aren't going to have all the possession, and if they don't have all the possession, it's probably the best possible thing that could happen to them, because then with the likes of Sasha, they could kill you on transition. And speaking of Sasha, be on the lookout for drop goals. Those things win matches. Right. So don't be surprised if you see it raining drop goals over there. If anyone can do it, obviously it's Sasha, someone with a background in football. And then the Bulls Edinburgh game, it's kind of like a game that's basically gone with a home team. Never has in their short history of playing against each other, the away team has never won. So you kind of think that's probably what should happen this time around. Edinburgh only got to South Africa on Wednesday, having flown on Tuesday, but they're saying that they were using Glasgow's blueprint. Glasgow did exactly the same thing to try and take care of the whole altitude. So and then over and above that, you're just kind of sitting in a space where really the Bulls should be the team to win. Sharks against Munster, Sharks at home, and Sharks with their Springboks, totally different team to Sharks without their Springboks and Sharks away from home. That's all I'm going to say. and then obviously Leinster, Scarlets. Interesting situation. Scarlets have actually beaten Leinster this season because they were playing that mix of second and third team. So they beat them in Wales. But can lightning strike twice? I have my doubts, particularly as Leinster are now probably enraged, having failed to win the Champions Cup. I don't know for the how manyth time in succession. So I suspect that's kind of like how it's going to shake out. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, no, it's certainly an interesting mix of matches, and I do think they are still hurting after that exit from the European Cup. And yeah, I wonder how they square that. The one thing you mentioned about the Stormers is that they certainly can. And what I absolutely love is to see when teams enjoy their tours, and it always shows in the results. The Bulls tour, I thought, was one where they absolutely enjoyed it. They play like it, and then you get those unlikely results as well. So I think Dobbo will be wary to that, and I wouldn't be surprised, having traveled slightly early, that it's been not as intense and not as heavy, and so try and keep things light, make it an enjoyable tour, and who knows, you might certainly walk away with the spoils. And yeah, I think if they have an enjoyable tour, they'll probably win it.
Well, they better make it enjoyable, because if they do win, they suddenly probably have Leinster to go to. So for the pre-final, they might want to enjoy it, if you know what I mean. No, it's going to be rough from here on in. It's not going to be fun at all. But look, I genuinely think if there is a chance of an upset in those quarterfinals, it's probably the Stormers against Glasgow. But you never know with these things. You've got your ideas, you've got your, but it never quite works out the way you think it will.
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting. I can't wait to see it. Before we go, do you have a sim bin? Didn't even ask.
It's a small one, I don't want to be the guy with the rant every week, but I might as well try it.
Okay, before you start, Paul, this is this is the cue. I want to play this thing because I absolutely love hearing the booze, because he's already apologizing for it. That's okay. Now you can rant.
Okay. So my big gripe this week is how sort of like the English media has received Northampton Saints' defeat, to Bordeaux. Like one of the things I found as a writer is few media are as capable of shaping the narrative the way they want to than English media. So what they'll do is, you watch the game and you think, you know what, this is what we saw, but these guys will come up with something totally different, especially if their team loses. If you remember 2007 final against England, World Cup final, the narrative was Cueto was in. And it has since been shown, I don't know how many times since then, in that 18 years since then, that he wasn't in. His foot went into touch. So they like sort of like shaping things, to be what they aren't. So the latest thing that they shaped it out to be was sort of that free fall that took place at the very conclusion of the game, where the French guys kind of like got hold of Henry Pollock, who kind of like throughout the game or throughout his short career so far has taken on the role of sort of head troll in chief when it comes to opponents, with the whole checking his pulse thing and sort of being this guy, this cocky guy. And so the French obviously took exception to that. And at the end, I think somebody grabbed him, Jefferson Poirot, grabbed him around the throat, and it was this sort of high and mighty oh, this thing shouldn't happen. It was out of order. You know what? In a scuffle, you don't expect people to handle you gently. And so, if you do get in a scuffle, you will be grabbed by the throat. And that's just how it works, especially if you spent, I don't know, 80 minutes trying to earn the tag of the guy, being, you want to have, let me put it this way, you want to have your pulse checked, somebody will check it for you. And unfortunately, that's exactly what happened there. So I don't know. I just think sometimes, the English do like to sort of instigate, and then when they come off second best, they like to complain. And also Poirot. If your name is Poirot, how do you commit an offense? Because surely you will be found out. Like, dude, seriously. Now he's going to be banned for 2 weeks. I really think it's one of those seriously bad ones. So anyway, that's my rant of the week. Like, listen, if you want to get your pulse checked, don't worry, somebody will do it for you. It's that simple.
Yeah. Was Frans upside down. It's not all that bad. And you're only ranting about a team that was ranting as well. And I see that Northampton Saints are currently on the hunt for the signature of JJ van der Mencht, the former Sharks really big boy who's been at Start France. Yeah, right. Like he's a huge lad.
Listen, so I genuinely hope they get him. For me, that's one of the lost talents of South African rugby. I don't understand what happened. Obviously, he left South Africa too young. It made absolutely no sense for him to go. But he was a massive boy. He was about 130, 135, but he could shift. He was quick. He had ball skills. Maybe he didn't quite do the hard stuff that he should have done. As a lock forward in South Africa, you need to do the dirty stuff first, and maybe he didn't quite fancy it. But having played in France for so many years, you hope that he's picked that up, and then you hope that Northampton Saints do for him what they did for João Justus, basically getting him to be a player who's not just, who can't be relied on to just fire for 5 minutes and then kind of like go missing in action in a game. So if they can do the same thing and get him sort of to be a player of repeat effort and a player who can consistently display his natural ability, listen, I have nothing but hopes still for that guy, because, you look at the South African lock sort of reserves. I know we've got, or resources, we've got a lot of locks, yes, but few of them are generational talent. No one's Eben. And look, it's hard to be Eben, because if you look at his body of work, no one's FBS name one. Again, that's a generational or once in a million type player. And JJ van der Mencht, I always felt at the beginning, probably misguidedly, was what was in that league in terms of raw ability. If somebody can somehow squeeze out performance to go with, with that ability, I actually think it would be incredibly great for South African rugby to be able to call on a guy like that to go to the next World Cup.
Yeah, no. And I absolutely take what you say. We do have a lot of locks, it seems, at the moment, but, you only need 2 key injuries. And your entire picture starts changing, especially if you're in Russ's shoes. I want to leave it there. I want to thank the gents from the Cheetahs for coming through. It was always, it's always good. And I think I feel bad because after this, I thought I should have had Hendrik Cronje, Mr. Cheetah himself on the show, and maybe we'll pull him in and maybe he'll talk to us about the more controversial stuff as well while he's at it. But before I let you go, it's a silly question. But the Cheetahs are everybody's second team. Do you have a favorite of all time? Do you have a favorite Cheetahs player?
Me? Geez, Cheetahs. The problem is most Cheetahs players, the problem with Cheetahs players is they all moved to the Sharks in the early ages. remember how they signed everyone? Ruan, Frans Steyn, Andre Ubey in the 19, the brothers Duplessis. Yeah, so it, in a strange way, I think if you do have a favorite Cheetahs player, in all likelihood, it's actually a player who ended up not not playing there. So I would probably have to say, listen, I'm a huge fan of Sergio Peterson. I like that guy. And he won a couple of Currie Cup, with the Cheetahs. So yeah, maybe Sergio for now.
Okay, him or Oli LaRue.
Or to run.
Oz. Oh my gosh. Okay,
Yeah,
no, let's not even go. Yeah, let's not even go down this road because it is silly. And we've just spoken to one in Frans Steyn. So yeah.
Okay, just to make it worse, Rassi.
Okay, yeah. No, let's not even continue.
Yeah,
and that stadium was where the disco lights started, that's where we saw the journey take another step as well. Sim, you're an absolute legend. You're a gent. It's always nice catching up. I hope I check you at Loftus this weekend, and we'll catch up again next week.
Nah, it's cool, man. It's good to be with you.
Cheers, my bro. And don't forget, give this one a like, share with your friends, and subscribe to our channel as well. We are everywhere. If you don't want to watch us, you can check us out on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get podcasts. If it's Deezer, we are there. But we'll always be here on a Thursday at around the same time. So hope to see you then. Thanks very much for joining us, to both Duncan and to Frans Steyn. What a pleasure. And we hope good things only for the Toyota Cheetahs on their journey. And for you joining us from home, see you again soon. This was That Rugby Union Channel Show.